My name is Ugyan Choedup, and I was born in India. Actually, my parents were also born in India. It's that my grandparents came from Tibet, and I did my schooling from Central School for Tibetans, and then after that I worked in SFT for 1 year, Students of Free Tibet, and right now I'm studying Chinese studies in JNU, doing my MPhil second year. Yeah, the main reason for me to take up this course was to understand, because in any kind of struggle, one need to understand its opponent, right? I won't call it an enemy, but so for that reason, I think the course that I am taking right now will enable me to understand China in a holistic way, because one cannot struggle or one cannot be into struggle with a very partial image of China. So it's important to know your opponent completely in a holistic way. So I think it will help me in that sense. The Sino-Tibetan conflict, in general, there is a tendency to explain these two conflict, this conflict, Sino-Tibetan conflict, in a very simplistic and in a very reductive manner. They usually attribute Sino-Tibetan conflict to a mere economic reason, as if the Chinese came into Tibet to exploit economically. That's it. But for me, it actually goes deeper into it. It's not just a mere economic benefit they are looking into. It's more about an identity conflict. It's more about the nationalism, the clash of nationalism in between the Chinese and Tibetan nationalism. So for me, the crux of Sino-Tibetan conflict is the identity conflict. It's the conflict between the distinct Tibetan identity vis-a-vis distinct Chinese identity. And the solution would lie either in complete decolonization or in complete assimilation of Tibetans. And both will not be possible as of now. Yeah, many actually. Like for example, in 2008 there was widespread uprising in Tibet. The protests actually spread it throughout the historical region of Tibet, which goes beyond what is right now designated as Tibet, which is Tibet Autonomous Region. So it actually spread to the historical region of Tibet, Eastern Tibet, which is right now under the Chinese provinces like Sichuan, Yunnan, Gansu and all. So during that protest, what happened was the Tibetans were basically protesting against the wrong policies that they felt, but somehow due to the state propaganda or state control of information, it was portrayed as Tibetans looting, burning or killing the Chinese, Han Chinese, those who were settled in Tibetan area. So basically the Chinese saw this whole uprising as ungrateful Tibetans actually protesting against the motherland. So for them it was these stupid, insolent Tibetans protesting with the instigation of West, right? So the whole Tibetans were reduced of any agency to think for themselves. It was like Tibetans were reduced to a mere pawn in the chess game between the West and China now, right? They basically said, no, Tibetans are actually fooled. They are instigated by West, so they are protesting. Right? So it actually eliminated the agency to think for Tibetans. So through that way, they actually justify it. They say like, it's just that others are instigating it. Internally, we don't have any problem. It's the outside, it's the external pressure that is causing the problem. So yeah, in that way, there is a justification that until now, inside Tibet, people are satisfied if it's not for the external influences. So they are justifying the colonialism that has happened in Tibet for the last 5 decades. From Indian point of view, first of all, no country has ever done more than the India has done in terms of economic support, in terms of moral support, in terms of various other supports. Right? When Tibet when the refugee comes into exile, it's India they come to. Right, and kind of support that India has provided, no other country has done that. But at the same time, while there is a support of economic or cultural support, there has been very less of political support. For an instance, like 130 self-emulations have happened in Tibet from 2011 onwards, and not a single statement was issued from the Indian government side condemning the Chinese, the repression or the Chinese suppression. So not a single statement was issued. So likewise, in terms of political support, there has been lacking, and we as a Tibetan wish that the India could do more in those aspects, the political aspects, because for Tibetans inside Tibet, the idea of exile is not West, it's India, and they are expecting more from India, because since the government of exile is in India, since the Dalai Lama is in India, since the majority of the exile population lives in India, for them the whole, the idea of support is actually based more in India. So I think in those aspects, India could actually do more. Yeah, I worked for 10th month in SFT, and 3 points that I've learned while working in SFT is, first thing is obviously it's the creativity, right? We need to now think in a new way. We need to change our conventional way of protesting, our conventional way of doing things. So we need to be more creative. At the same time, we need to be more strategic, right? Strategic in a sense like we need to think in the long term and a short term also. So the movement has to be strategic. It has to be low risk, high effect, right? It cannot be always confrontational. Sometimes we have to engage into internal strengthening. So it has to be more strategic. And the last point would be to implement those things into action, right? We need to go beyond words, take action. So those three, I think, would define my experience in SFT.
Thank you, Ugyan. That was very
Welcome.
good. Yeah.